गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदा नंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदा नंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे जय राधा रासबिहारी राधा रासबिहारी राधे जय गौरांगी बैंगलोरीश्वर गौरांगी बैंगलोरीश्वर गौरांगी जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शन जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव प्रहलाद नरसिंह जय अनंत देव जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय जय प्रभुपा प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल हरि नाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य स्तोत्र शत His Divine Grace Shila Abhay Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य स्तोत्र शत His Divine Grace Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की जय जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ छठ गोस्वामी प्रभुगण की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण चंद्र गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय श्री क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय कावेरी माई की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी महारानी की जय समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय Datai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories and glories and glories and glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraje Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुलङ्गायतें क्रीं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदिनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरं हरि ओम तत्सत्. We reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll continue our reading. Let me share my screen with you. Just allow me a minute to open the shloka. So we continue our reading from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Fourth canto is titled The Creation of the Fourth Order. We are reading the chapter 12 and 30th verse today. Chapter is titled Dhruv Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead. And the shloka that we are reading is the 30th shloka. Tadotpadara putro tadarshaskartam agatam mrityor murdhani padam datva arurhat Patam griham tadotpadana putro tadaksh taksham agatam mrityor murdhani padam datva arurohadvuttam griham tadottana pada putro dadarshantakam agatam mrityor murdhani padam datva aruroh bhutam griham. Word to word translation. Tada, then, Uttanapada, of King Uttanapada, Putra, son, Dadarsha, could see, Antakam, death, personified, Agatam, approached him, Mrityur Murdhani, on the head of death, Padam, fate, Datva, placing, Aruroha, got up, Adbhutam, wonderful. Graham, on the airplane, which resembled a big house. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. When Dhruv Maharaj was attempting to get onto the transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him. Not caring for death, however, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of the death, and thus he got up on the airplane, which was big as a house. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. To take the passing away of a devotee and passing away of a non-devotee as one and the same is completely misleading. While ascending the transcendental airplane, Dhruv Maharaj suddenly saw death personified before him, but he was not afraid. Instead of death's giving him trouble, Dhruv Maharaj took advantage of death's presence and put his feet on the head of death. People with poor fund of knowledge do not know the difference between death of a devotee and death of a non-devotee. In this connection, an example can be given. A cat carries its kitten in its mouth and also carries a rat in its mouth. Superficially, the catching of the rat and the kitten appear to be one and the same, but actually they are not. When the cat catches the rat, in its mouth, it means death for the rat. Whereas when the cat catches the kitten enjoys it. When Dhruv Maharaj boarded the airplane, he took advantage of arrival of death personified, who came to offer him obeisances, putting his feet on the head of death. He got up on the unique aeroplane, which is described here to be as big as a house, Graham. There are many other similar instances in Bhagavata literature. It is stated that when Kardamuni created the airplane to carry his wife Devahuti all over the universe, the airplane was like a big city, carrying many houses, lakes, and gardens. Modern scientists have manufactured big airplanes, but they are packed with passengers who experience all sorts of discomfort while riding in them. Material scientists are not even perfect in manufacturing a material airplane. In order to compare the airplane used by Kardama or the plane sent from Vishnu Loka, they must manufacture an airplane equipped like a big city with all comforts of life, lakes, gardens, parks, etc. Their plane must be able to fly in outer space and hover and visit all other planets. If they invent such a plane, they will not have to make different space stations for fuel to travel into outer space. Such a plane should have an unlimited supply of fuel, or like a plane from Vishnu Loka would fly without it. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to Canto 4 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 12, chapter titled Dhruv Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead, and the text number that we're reading is 30th. Om Tat Sat Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे So we continue our conversation from the same chapter where Dhruv Maharaj is going back home, back to Godhead. Back to Godhead is something very, very important. But at the same time, if one has to go back to Godhead, many times a lot of our devotees say that, I want to go back home, back to Godhead, but then we are scared of death. So here, in the shloka and in the purport and the translation, Srila Prabhupada very nicely says that devotees should not be worried about death by the example of Prahlad Maharaj. And Dhruv Maharaj also. Prahlad Maharaj also, on the other chapter, we look at it, he was not scared of death. Wherever his father threw him, whether it was from a cliff of a mountain or whether it was from, he was thrown amidst the snakes and he was put into the boiling water. He was made to sit on the lap of his aunt, Holika, all that. He was never scared of death. But every time that he was put into it, he would always chant the holy name of the Lord. He would always chant the name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So likewise, here we see that Dhruv Maharaj was not worried about death, death personified who had come. At the same time, he was actually very comfortable in putting his head over, putting his leg over the head of the death. Yeah, you just go through it once again. When Dhruv Maharaj was attempting to get on transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him. Not caring for death, however, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death. And thus he got up on the airplane, which was big as a house. So there are two things that we'll have to really discuss on this. And today, when we talk about airplanes, we talk about A320s, A380s with double decker and all of that. But where is the comparison of the airplanes which were there in the yesteryears? You didn't need refueling of such airplanes. Here, if you take a longer flight, if you take a flight from here to the United States, you will have to actually have a stopover because of the fuel. Otherwise, the tank will get over and you may not be able to fly. But at the same time, if you look at the planes which were there in the spiritual, which are still there in the spiritual world, or which were there earlier in this, examples which we have been giving, did not need such a thing. Not only that, in today's flights, if you see, you're always cramped. the so-called, the so-called, economy airs and low-cost airlines give you just barely the space to fit yourself. You can't move your hand, you can't move your leg, you can't move your body. Whereas here, the planes which are described here have a city within themselves. You have lakes, you have buildings, you have people living there, all of that. Likewise, a similar example is given in the previous kind of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we were talking about Devahuti and Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni, just to please his wife, had created a city which is aeroplane. The whole city was created on an aeroplane, and they could fly wherever they would want to go. They would stop wherever they would like to go. They could, have all the facilities on board. But whereas today's airplanes do not offer you such. So here also we see that, there's a beautiful aeroplane which has come from the Vishnu Loka, and it is inviting Dhruv Maharaj to board on. And likewise, this was also seen that in the other yugas as well, there were aeroplanes where we could experience such a comfort or luxury. Yeah. So, and that is one about the aeroplane. But at the same time, the most important essence of this particular shloka is talking about the passing away of a devotee. And passing away of a devotee or a non-devotee, they're two different things. It cannot be connected. It cannot be as similar as passing away of a devotee. So here Dhruv Maharaj is going back home, back to Godhead. But in the other cases where we see a non-devotee, he does not go home back to Godhead because he has to complete his cycle of karmas which he has earned over a period of time, either in this lifetime or the previous lifetimes. So it's very important that we don't compare or we don't see it in the same pair of glasses as we see the death of a devotee or passing away of a devotee, right? A very simple example Srila Prabhupada gives in his own purport is about a cat and, a cat holding a rat and a kitten. So when a cat is holding a rat in its mouth, it's like death personified. And, rat is trembling with fear that, I will lose my life any moment. Where at the same time, when the kitten is held by a cat, it is again the same mouth, it is the same way that it is holding, but the kitten is comfortable. The kitten feels that I'm in my mother's safe arms and nobody can harm anything to me. So, in a similar fashion, when a devotee leaves his body or he passes away, he knows that he is going back home, back to Godhead. He's going to eternal space where he belonged. And he is not really worried about it. And apart from this, there are many shlokas where this has been quoted. He says, just before that, I would like to add this is, just before Dhruv Maharaj is boarding the aeroplane, He paid his obeisances to all of them who were present, all the sadhus, all the individuals who were present at Badrikashram as he was going back home, back to Godhead. Why so? One should feel pride saying that the Vishnu Dutas have come, and from Vishnu Loka there's an aeroplane which has come to take me. But here, Dhruv Maharaj is not feeling that. He is actually paying his obeisances to everybody who's present there. Why? Because it is all of them who helped him go back home, back to Godhead. So it's very important learning again we take from this example of a wonderful Vaishnava, Dhruv Maharaj, is saying that we have to appreciate and give credit to all of them who help us grow in our spiritual life, or all of those who are helping us go back home, back to Godhead. Yeah. And so he pays his obeisances to everybody present there, including all the sadhus at Badrikashram. And Dhruv Maharaj is putting his leg on the head of death. And we are all frightened, actually, even thinking of death. But on the other side, death is frightened when death is seeing Dhruv Maharaj. So in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th chapter, 20th verse, he says, death is not at all pleasing. And since everyone is exactly like a condemned man being led to the place of execution, what possible happiness can people derive from material objects or the gratification that they provide? So death for everybody in the material world is not pleasing at all. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to leave the body. Nobody wants to go. It's only devotees who desire to go back home, Godhead. So there are various shlokas that we would be discussing today, which talks about what is death and how one needs to take, and especially how devotees have to deal with death. And Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, all of them give multiple areas where we should really look at what death should be treated like, and how a devotee should behave or act when death arrives. Yeah. And in the Bhagavad Gita 10.34, it says, Krishna says, I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principles of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, and steadfast and presence. Again, when we look at Bhagavad Gita 13.8 and up to 13.12, in one of the shlokas it says, Indriyeshu vairagyam anakrata evacha janma mrityu jaravyadi dukkha doshanudarshanam. So what are we understanding from this? The understanding here is that death is not very pleasant. Yeah. It says that, let me read the translation for you. Well, this is the whole translation for 8 to 12th verse, but we were only reading one verse from that, only a part of it. But for my own benefit and for the benefit of everybody who's here, I would like to read this translation, very important, 10.8 to 12. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. Even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. So death is not a very pleasant event generally for everybody. Yeah. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in solitary place, detachment from general mass of people, accepting the importance of realization, and philosophical search for absolute truth. All this I declare to be knowledge. And beside this, whatever there may be is an ignorance. Okay. So what is Krishna saying in this particular shloka? He says very clearly that Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi are going to be there. They are going to create a lot of problems for us. But one who thinks of Mrityu as peacefulness or as something which is good to get out of this bondage of the material, body that we have got, is somebody who's very dear to me, or is somebody who is very who is in knowledge and he has come out of ignorance. Yeah. So this is a very nice shloka where Srila Prabhupada, he gives very clear indications that one needs to not worry. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi is going to be there. You cannot get away from this. But one who is very steady gets to get over this body, which is created by the material nature, and then we go back home, back to Godhead. It says one should try to accept the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. These are descriptions in various literatures of birth. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of unborn, the child's stay in the womb of the mother, its suffering, etc., are very graphically described. It should be thoroughly understood that birth is distressful. Now, we celebrate birth of a child, but actually birth is distressful because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We've had this conversation earlier also. When the child is in the womb of the mother, he continuously prays to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saying that, no, I will never repeat this again. Please get me out of this place. It's such a filthy place. It's full of, blood, mucus. Mother eats something cold. I feel very cold. My mother eats something spicy. My body burns. Mother eats something cold. I shiver inside the body. So birth is actually distressful because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We do not make any solution in the repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of sufferings, and they're also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. This should be discussed. As far as disease and old age are concerned, everybody gets practical experience. Nobody wants to be deceased, and nobody wants to become old. But there is no avoidance to this. Unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distress of birth and death, old age and disease, there is no impetus for making advancement in spiritual life. Yeah. So as we go further from here, we can see in 1 second, there's another verse. Verse 8.16 in Bhagavad Gita. Abrahmano bhuvana loka punaravartate arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. It says from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all the places of misery wherein repeated birth and death takes place. But one who attains my abode, O son of Kunti, never thinks of taking birth again. So actually liberation, a living entity gets liberated by the way of death. Yeah. Brahma, he lives for 311 trillion years plus, but he's still worried about death. Devotees are not worried about death. Yeah, in this sloka that Brahma is given. So as we move forward from Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, 87th chapter, 27th verse, we see that the devotees who worship you as the shelter of all beings disregard death and they place their feet on this head. But with the words of Vedas, you bind the non-devotees like animals, though they are vastly learned scholars. It is your affectionate devotee who can purify themselves and others, not those who are inimical to you. So devotee can escape that by rising. So, there's another example which is given, the rising and setting of the sun. Yeah, that's there in Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, 17th verse. Ayurharati vapum sam udayan astam chayan haso tasyarte yat Krishna nitya uttama shloka vartate. Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing the topic of all good personality of Godhead. So it is very important that one should realize that with every passing day, with every rising and setting of sun, it decreases the duration of life that individual has. And one who utilizes this every passing day of his life, every passing rising and setting of sun, morning, night, all that keeps happening. Yeah. One who really uses his time by discussing topics of Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the others are actually wasting their time, or they're actually going very close to death. So devotees who actually discuss the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are smart people. That is why they are called smart people, intelligent people, saying that they are not wasting. Time is anyway going to pass. Yeah. None of us have control over birth and death. As as soon as one night passes, the next day begins. The next day completes, and the night comes again. So the circle continues. And with every passing of day and night, our duration of life is being reduced because we have a fixed duration of life. Nobody is immortal. Nobody has unlimited years of life. So with every passing day, our life is reduced. But uh, one who is smart, one who is good, can understand that this is very important for me to take up to this. Just give me one moment. Yeah. So one who is smart or one who is intelligent, uses his time very well by reading about the holy name of the Lord, by practicing his devotional service. And it's only devotee who can conquer death. I think, somebody may have a question, how does a devotee conquer death? How is it possible? We see everybody leaving their bodies. We see everybody, going away from this material world. How can a devotee conquer death? I have not seen any devotee who's immortal. Well, the sum and substance of saying that only devotees can conquer death is saying that they utilize their time very nicely because whatever time that they've got in the material world, they use it so well so that they prepare themselves to go back home, back to Godhead, where there is absolutely no death, no birth, no disease, no old age. So that's how we are actually conquering over death. So once you go back home, back to Godhead, there's no death for you. There's no old age. There's no birth. There is no disease there. So that is how the devotees utilize their time very well by practicing devotional service and they conquer death. Again, in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 29th chapter, 8th verse, it says, Sri Bhagavan Vacha Antate Shatyami Mama Dharmam Sumangalam Yanshra Sadhyavacharan Mrityo Jayanti Durjayam. Since the Supreme Personality of God had said, yes, I shall describe you the principles of devotion unto me by executing which a mortal human being will conquer unconquerable death. No, this Krishna himself is saying. 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 29th chapter, 8th verse. Please, go through it. It is very nice. I'll just read the translation for my own benefit. The Supreme Personality of God had said, yes, I shall describe you the principles of devotion to me by executing which a mortal human being will conquer unconquerable death. So Krishna confirms here saying that, if one practices the principles of devotion service, the mortal human being will conquer unconquerable death. Isn't that really, mind-boggling? We've all been thinking all about it, saying that I'm going to die today, I'm going to die tomorrow. But a devotee never thinks on those lines because he practices devotional service. And with principles of devotional service, his mortal body, which is there, he will conquer and he'll conquer over unconquerable death. Yeah. Again, these examples continue. So, our Shastras really give us that depth into what is required for this human form of life to understand. Again, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, shloka number 39 and 40. Imam lokam tathaivam atanam upadyanam atmanam anuyenche ye raya pasavo graha visrajya sarvascha anyasam cha mamevam vishato mukham bhajante ananya bhaktya tan mrityor atiparaye. The translation is, does the devotee who worships me, Krishna is talking about this, the Supreme Personality of God, it says, does the devotee who worships me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, in unflinching devotional service, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in relationship with the body. I take him to the other side of birth and death. Yeah, such a beautiful translation and such a beautiful shloka, which says, when when the devotee worships me and he knows that I am the all-pervading Lord of the universe, and his devotional service is unflinching, and he doesn't want to actually get promoted to heavenly planets and enjoy their long stay. He doesn't want to enjoy all the beauty. He doesn't want to enjoy all the material opulence that one may really look at. All that is not required by a devotee. But what happens to him? He says, he does not get aspirated by his wealth, children, cattle, home, or anything in relation with the body. So he doesn't think of the body. When he gets over this bodily concept of life, Krishna says, I take him to the other side of birth and death. So there is no absolutely birth or death. So we are actually seeing here that Dhruva Maharaj is not looking at death at all. Yeah. There's another shloka, very nice shloka. I think we should really 11th canto, second chapter, second verse. Ko nenu rajanidram mukunda charanambujam na bhajate sarvato mrityupamastamarom amarottamam. Sorry. It says, my dear king, in material world, the conditioned souls are confronted by death at every stage of life. Therefore, who among the conditioned souls would not render service to the lotus feet of Lord Mukunda, who is worshipable even for the greatest liberated soul? You know, so in the material world, everybody confronts with death at every step of life. It is not that we die once, we die every day. There's a traffic, we die. There's a, argument at office, we die. There's argument at home, we die. There's an argument with a neighbor, we die. So it's like a death every day. There's so much of klesha, so much of problems, so much of this one. And quite a few times we also decide, oh my God, why am I leaving? I don't even want to leave. I want to go back home, back to Godhead. But then it's not so easy. And it's not that just because you desire to go back home, back to Godhead, you will go back. Yes, one should desire. That's the beginning of spiritual life. That's the beginning of devotional service. But at the same time, one needs to be qualified as well. One needs to practice Krishna consciousness or devotional service actively. Then only he can go back home, back to Godhead, or get liberated from this material world. Again, again in the in this particular shloka, it is talking about pada padam vipadam. But if we take the process of chanting, it is very powerful. If we take the process of devotional service, it is very powerful. We can go against all this, troubles that we may think of in our spiritual life or in our material life. I'm sorry. Again, in 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter, 44th verse. Yannamadena miyatranam atur patam sakalanna vishayo gunam punam विमुक्त कर्म गंगल उत्तम गति प्राप्नत्यो yakshantina kalejana. The translation goes like this. Terrified about to die, a man collapses on his bed, although his voice is faltering and he is hardly conscious of what he is saying. If he utters the holy name of the Supreme Lord, he can be freed from the reactions of Ritu and achieve the supreme destination. But still, people in the age of Kali will not worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. It says that at the time of death, if one chants the holy name of the Lord, he'll go back home, back to Godhead. The Vishnu Dutas will come and take up a very, classical story that we all see very regularly within the circles that we've heard of and we've been taught about right from the day that we have been practicing Krishna consciousness is the story of Ajamila. Ajamila, the Brahmana who was practicing all his ritualistic activities, a nice person, but once goes to the forest to collect firewood and sees that there's a man and a woman embracing each other, and then falls into the lusty desires of that. And because of this lusty desires, he marries a prostitute, and he begets some children from the prostitute. And he names one of his son as Narayana. This is again the will of the providence. It is the will of the Lord. And at the time of death, you know, while he is just about to die, he calls out the name of his son Narayana. He was actually calling his son Narayana and not calling the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But still, the Vishnu Dutas hear them saying that he is calling out Narayana, name of Lord Narayana at the time of death. And they come and chase away and take Ajamila back home, back to Godhead. So if you see that even once if somebody chants the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is freed from the reactions of fruitive work and he achieves the supreme destination. And this is not a so-called mandhadak story, something that has just come out of our mind. It has been recorded in the Shastras, and whatever is recorded in the Shastras cannot be nullified by any effects. So it is very much a fact that, if one chants the holy name of Lord regularly, see, he's chanting unknowingly, unconditionally, without any efforts or without any intent of reaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if we chant the holy name of the Lord nicely, if we chant the holy name of the Lord devotionally, and if we preach the holy name of the Lord to everybody, you can think that what kind of an effect it can bring us in our spiritual life, in our materially spiritual life, because we are all in the material world, but still we have a spiritual life. Again, from the same chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 30th verse that is spoken, Manu Maharaj speaks about this. Manu vacha attuna pada bhagvaschatava saranagatam devashitvo avantari haro vipaksham yannamedyam avidya nischaya chadha lokanjusa taranti dustaram angamrityam. Says, all the sages said, Priya Dhruva, O son of King Uttanapada, may the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Sarnagandhava, who relieves of distress for his devotees, kill all your threatening enemies. The holy name of the Lord is powerful as the Lord himself. Therefore, simply by chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, may men can be fully protected from the fierce death without any difficulty. Thus the devotee is saved. Now, when a devotee of the Lord takes the holy name of the Lord, he is always saved. There's no way out of this cycle of birth and death other than the chanting of the holy name, taking the holy name of the Lord. Kunti Devi also said that, seeing your lotus feet, she's talking to Krishna. She says, seeing your lotus feet, we will not go into the cycle of birth and death. That's spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.36. Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribir Edanta Mada Pumam Naivarti Apityatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. My Lord, your lordships can easily be approached, but only those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parent, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty cannot approach you with sincere feelings. So one needs to really get out of it and then think of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he wants to really go back home, back to Godhead. We can put stop to the cycle of birth and death. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, which shloka is that? 4.9 Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvata tvakta deham punarjanmam naiti mameti sarjuna. Says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not upon leaving this body take birth again in this material world, but Arjuna attains my eternal abode. So Krishna himself is saying that take up to Krishna consciousness, take up to devotional service. Again in Bhagavad Gita 8.5, Antakale cha mama eva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayanti samadbhavam yati nasti atra samshayam. It says, and whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this, there is no doubt. So, Krishna consciousness is such a powerful program. It's absolutely a win-win situation. It's a win-win situation whether you're in the material world practicing Krishna consciousness or even after that. Because even after that, when you leave the body, you go back home, back to Godhead. So it's a win-win situation that Krishna consciousness or devotional service in the spiritual life, in the material world, is also practicing Krishna consciousness nicely and remembering the Lord and preaching the holy name of the Lord. At the same time, you're enjoying, the preaching activities, the pastimes of the Lord, your association with devotees, visiting the dham, and all that you're enjoying. And at the time of leaving this body, at the time of death, you're again going back home, back to Godhead, where you have eternal pastime with the Lord. And if you chant the holy name of the Lord, you have an absolute guarantee. Krishna himself gives you that you will go back home, back to Godhead. And where it is given? It is given in Bhagavad Gita at the end of Bhagavad Gita, 18.66, almost at the end. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वं सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from sinful reactions. Do not fear. Similarly, King Kulashekar Alvar is also praying that I want to die now. Have you heard anybody praying this, saying that I want to die now? No. But King Kulshekar Alvar, he says that I want to die now because when my eyes can really see the beautiful form of the Lord, when my hands can serve the beautiful form of the Lord, when my legs can walk up to the place of worship, all my limbs are fine. And at a later date, I may not be able to speak the holy name of the Lord. My tongue is fine now. I say, I can utter the holy name of the Lord. I can preach the holy name of the Lord. I can recite the shlokas. That is when my senses are powerful. It is easier to go back home, back to Godhead, rather than getting into the old age. So devotees are generally not frightened of death. Trinkul Shekhar Alwar proves it, saying that you can take me right now so that, I'm in my senses and I'm speaking about the holy name of the Lord. I'm glorifying you. I'm seeing you. I'm, serving you. That's the right time for me to go back. So devotees are not frightened. Parikshit Maharaj says in 1.19 plus 0.15, oh Brahmana, please accept me in complete surrender. Whatever the magical thing, or he's talking about the banks on the banks while he's sitting to hear Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami, saying that whatever this animal called Takshaka, let him come and bite me at once. I desire that all of you continue to sing the deeds of the Lord Vishnu. Whenever I'm hearing the holy name of the Lord, let me just pass away. And so we have to practice our spiritual life. If we not fear, that is the best thing. And even if we fear, there is no way that we can get out of it. So we have to face it very boldly. Like Dhruv Maharaj, he is not worried about death at all. He puts his leg, he actually blesses death and then boards the aircraft. And if you are serious in Krishna consciousness, you will overcome all these kinds of fear. Devotees don't care whether they go to heaven or hell. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said 3.15.17, saying that whether it is hell or heaven, devotee always preaches. He is not disinterested with the material engagement wherever he goes. Devotees are fully surrendered. They do not find any difference in hell or heaven, and they are not interested in anything other than the surrender to Krishna. So you don't have to really worry at all. And again in Canto 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam, 19th chapter, 14th verse, it says, materialists are attached to bodily comfort, and they are always attached to family and afraid to give up his body. What will happen to my son? What will happen to my daughter? What will happen to my grandchildren? What will happen to my wife? That's the problem. So one needs to really focus on the holy name of the Lord, devotional service to the Lord, and just get over this fear of death. What is the use of devotees getting frightened at the time of death? It is actually a waste of reading the Shastras. And what is the use of labor of studying the Shastras for long? So, devotees should really take it positively that, well, the whole idea of the shloka was not that we saying that we should not get worried about death. We can and we will get worried because we are in this contaminated state of mind. But at the same time, one who takes up to devotional service nicely, one who chants the holy name of the Lord and has fulfilled all his requirements, does not get worried whether he is here or he is in Golok Vrindavan. And for sure, he is guaranteed that, when he is under the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, he promises him that he will take him back home, back to Godhead. So that's about the sloka. Maybe I'll just read the translation once more. When Dhruv Maharaj was attempting to get on the transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him. Not caring for death, however, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death, and thus he got up to the airplane, which was a big as a house. So this is where I wanted to discuss that devotees are more focused on preaching the holy name of the Lord, rather not worried, they're not frightened, or they're not afraid of any of the activities, because they know their ultimate shelter is Krishna, and that's the best part of it. So I will end the conversation here. I think we have a couple of minutes to end the session. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask me. Or if you have any doubts, please clarify. Or if you have any corrections, please go ahead and make the corrections. Happy to hear from all of you.
Right, Prabhu.
Dandavats Padmanath Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, my question is, there is a word in the sloka, Visuddhachara, right? Is there a word? Today's verse.
Today's verse, what is the word, Prabhu?
Visuddhachara. Visuddhachara. Today's verse is 30th verse, right, Prabhu?
No, Prabhu. Yeah, today's verse is 30th verse, Prabhu.
12th chapter.
12th chapter, 30th verse, yes.
Okay, so is this the sloka? Yam yam lokam manasa?
No, it is Sada Uttana Pada Putraha.
Okay. I just, saw the different, words.
Okay, maybe some confusion.
Okay. Now there is a verse, which deals on the same.
Okay.
So there is a word called Sudachara. Here it is just the meaning, it's given, purity of conduct. The devotee will do this purity of conduct and how it influences one's destination after death. That means after the death, this whatever the achar prachar we have been doing as a devotee. So what is the significance of doing that devotional activity, and after the death, what is that impact on devotee? We are following chanting of holy name and Ekadasi Vrata, reading the scriptures like that. So my question is specifically, we do all those things, and how it impact on after the death. Correct.
Okay, Prabhu, there are two impacts that we can really see. Whatever we are practicing, maybe Ekadashi, following, reading the Shastras, associating with devotees, visiting the holy place of the Lord. So it has effect just while we are in this material body also. We are preaching, so that it has an effect, on others to preach. And we are taking devotional service for ourselves, so that's an effect. Now, as far as the effect is concerned, after that, so okay, just before death, while we are in this body, the devotee becomes very strong and he is not worried about death. Okay. He doesn't care whether it is death or life. He says, whatever I'm doing, I'm preaching here. Even if I go back home, back to Godhead, I will preach there. I will do my service there. Here also I'm serving the Lord. There also I'm serving the Lord. Here also I'm associating with devotees. There also I'm going to associate with devotees. So he doesn't really get worried about his current situation in the material world. And secondly, what happens to him at the time of death or after that? It's even more simple, because if he has practiced Krishna consciousness, or if he has practiced devotional service all through his life, if his achar has been very good, he has been sadachari, then he goes back home, back to Godhead, where there is no old age, birth, disease, and death. So he's happily living there, which is where he belongs to. So even before, if he practices Krishna consciousness, there is no loss. Even after that, there is no loss. It's a win-win situation. While being in the material world, he is happy. While going back home also, he is very happy.
And the connected question to this, Prabhu.
Yes, it is. It is actually connected to today's shloka. That is where we said that it is a win-win situation, whether the devotee is in material world or is in the spiritual world, because he is always in the devotional service. Sorry, go ahead. You had another question.
Yes, Prabhu. Whether he goes to Goloka Vrindavan or Dhruva, there is a planet. So is it superior than Goloka Vrindavan, or the comparison between this one, or any significance about this Dhruva Loka, Prabhu?
Okay, so Dhruva Loka is also as good
from
as
this. No, sorry to interrupt, Prabhu. So for the clarity, this chapter deals about his departure. He's leaving. So where he is leaving, Prabhu? That is my question. He's leaving
going back home.
Okay.
Going to Dhruva Loka.
No, is he going to Dhruva Loka or is he going to Goloka Vrindavan? That is my first this thing, curiosity. And another one is, if he goes to Dhruva Loka, what is the significance? What is that benefit? Is it part of a cosmic manifestation, or it is away from it, or some detail of the correction?
Okay, Prabhu. So the first question to answer that, he goes back home, back to Dhruva Loka, because that's where he belongs to, and Dhruva Loka is a part of the spiritual world. It's not in the material world.
Okay.
Okay. So he's liberated, but because he had desire to, have a kingdom bigger than his father, the Lord has already created a Loka called him Dhruva Loka, a bigger kingdom, a much better kingdom, and one which will never dissolve. Even today, Dhruva Loka is still in existence.
Okay.
So he goes back to Dhruva Loka, and it's as good as the spiritual world.
Okay.
I hope that clarifies your doubt, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. So I just curiosity to know that whether it is greater than or as equivalent you mentioned. Correction.
It is as equivalent, Prabhu.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So we'll close our session here. Thank you very much for being here this morning. It was wonderful to have all the devotees here. And I thank the temple management for allowing me to, speak today on this subject. Thank you very much for all of you for participating and your patient hearing. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.